Hey folks, this is Rabble Rousing Rich Bergeron.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Tornado Tony Cunningham.
And tonight it's Tom Paget with this crystal ball unveiled, ready to go.
Alright, well, I want to start the broadcast by revealing some sad news that we had just come out this week. Judo Gene LeBell, quite famous stuntman and coach and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu expert, and I mean, how many other things can you say about the guy? But he died at 89 this last week, and I just was seeing all kinds of pictures, not really putting two and two together, and then I obviously realized that just it was last night that he had died. But probably the most famous incident that's gone around and round and round in the mixed martial arts world that he was involved in was an incident that has some call a rumor, especially Steven Seagal, but I told Tony before the broadcast we were literally going to talk about shit. And here's the deal. So Judo Gene LeBell said that he was on a set of a movie doing some stunts, and Steven Seagal said he was immune to chokes. Told him.
Wow.
And Judo Gene LeBell said, "Oh, really?" And put him in a choke. And not only supposedly did he pass out, but he also shit his britches. Steven Seagal.
That's been around for years. I've heard that story a lot of times.
And obviously, you know, it's one of those things where Gene didn't really even have to say that's what happened. He basically said, well, you know, if somebody had a huge dinner an hour before that, one could be forgiven for, you know, shitting his pants. Like, he kind of hinted at it just enough. So, who knows if he really was telling the truth. But, I mean, what a story. And I remember the first time I heard it and was just like, wow, what a badass. And it was around the time that Judo Gene was in the corner of Ronda Rousey. And, of course, she gave a tribute to him when she found out about it. And just a great guy. Lots of history. Also with Bruce Lee. There was an incident where he got him in a headlock and Bruce didn't try to do any counters or anything like that, you know. Of course, maybe that was professional courtesy, maybe otherwise, but Judo Gene always said that, you know, Bruce Lee was one of the best martial artists he had ever seen. Period. But great guy.
You know, I remember, I've heard a lot about Gene LeBell because he also did a lot of pro wrestling, you know, refereeing, and like, he was, you know, wrestling field as well. I mean, I saw some, you know, old-time wrestler paying tribute yesterday. And I remember him mainly, you're going to laugh, from movies. If there was like a, like some type of martial arts and something was going to happen where the referee was going to get shoved out of the way or thrown out of the ring or something, oftentimes it was Gene LeBell. And he was in the one kickboxer movie. I think it was a Kickboxer 2. And, you know, he's trying to stop the fight, and the Thai fighter, I think it's Tang Po, like elbows him and like picks him up in an airplane spin and throws him out of the ring. Another one that I actually saw not that long ago, and I'll confirm it tonight, was Gene LeBell, and I'm 99% sure it was him, and I will confirm it, was on one of the very first episodes of the Incredible Hulk TV show. You guys remember that, right?
Yep.
Okay. Tom, you remember that show, right?
Yes, sir.
My favorite show as a little kid. And they had an episode where David Banner was helping a down-on-his-luck boxer, played by Martin Kove, who became famous for playing John Kreese in the Karate Kid movies. And he's like a down-on-his-luck boxer and whatever. And then his trainer was not you know, telling him, but he was having on drugs. And then the whole thing happens, and now they're like, "Oh my God, we gotta kill this guy off, but make it look like an accident. We'll spike his water with something to get his heart rate going up, and then he'll die in the ring." And then, of course, the Incredible Hulk foils the whole thing, but Gene LeBell was the referee of that, and the Hulk throws him out of the ring. Also had an appearance in the front row by Father Carmine from the Rocky series.
Well then, yeah. Triple H gave a shout out as well when he found out about Gene, and says it's a crazy time actually for the WWE because we really haven't even talked about other than when the rumors, first started materializing and lawsuits started popping up with the sexual harassment stuff. But obviously Vince McMahon is now pretty much gone. There's rumors stirring that he might still be running things, but Triple H now is in full control, and there's been some talk about them moving away from the entertainment of it, doing less skits and that sort of thing, and going towards a more pro wrestling slant, like actual wrestling.
So they want to go back to like older school, and with anything, you're always going to get your peaks and valleys. And this isn't anything in life anymore. It's like, we've seen how technology has evolved over the years. And back in the day, you'd have record players, your LPs. Then you moved up to 8-tracks. Then you went up to cassettes. Then DVD or CDs. Then you went up to basically, you had your Walkman, and then your Walkman CDs, and then you had your stereos, and then basically you went digital, and you had like MP3 players and iPods and things like that, and then you went to like phones and whatever. What's making a comeback? Records.
Yep.
And I was in the studio the other day, and I'm like, you'd see some old school stuff. You'd see like Elvis Presley and Frank Sinatra and things like that. But then you're seeing like modern stuff too. It's like, hey, just Kenny Chesney's greatest hits on a record. I'm like, oh, holy shit, But a buddy of mine's a big music collector, and he's like, he'll go crazy if he sees records in places. Now with wrestling, back in the day, you had like the really wrestling base. You'd have your angles and you'd have your matches. You'd have your match. There was like never like where like they wouldn't announce a match on the spot. Like, okay, you're going to wrestle so and so right now. It would be, this is your card for tonight, and these are your 10 matches, and so on and so forth. And then they went completely, with a lot of the characters, the big characters, and then they went to like the Attitude Era, which was like basically R-rated, and then they went to like a PG rated, and now they're going back to the, we're not PG anymore. So now maybe they'll go back to where it's more like, hey, we're having 10 matches and good guy, bad guy, and, go back to this formula that worked 35, 40 years ago, because it's all recycling.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. We'll keep an eye on that, of course, and see how that goes. But then we also got some big heavyweight news in the boxing world. Not only do we have the big rematch next week, we have Tyson Fury confirming that he's coming out of retirement. He wants to fight Derek Chisora, but it's not quite clear if Chisora is going to sign for that. And the whole
deal.
As
someone said the other day, that'd be the most useless trilogy ever.
Yeah. So the only reason he wants to do it is because it would be the second trilogy as a champion, I guess, that he would have as a heavyweight. So it would set some kind of record or precedent. And I mean, of all things to come back for, I don't know.
Yeah, really.
I don't know. It doesn't really raise my hackles. It's not really a big deal to me to see him fight Derek Chisora. It would be like a tune-up fight. And
really, what?
It's being eyed for.
This was always going to have a puncher's chance, but that's about it.
Top Rank and Frank Warren have co-promoted Fury's last 5 fights, but this offer was extended by Gold Star Promotions, which is a company that handles his meet and greets across the UK. So I don't know, that's a pretty big step up. Well, yeah, but meet and greet promoters are promoting this fight. He's also going to a fighter for a new coach. I don't know if you heard this, but a guy that's been in his corner for quite a while, but he supposedly doesn't say anything about Sugar Hill Stewart. He had been trained by him since the 2019 rematch with Wilder. But he's now going to be trained by his own training partner, Isaac Lowe. So, I don't know, kind of a little bit weird. But he has to deal with another issue. Has to hurdle another mountain, so to speak. Because remember talking about this like a month ago. Tyson was supposed to fight Thor from Game of Thrones, the character of the Mountain from Game of Thrones, and he's demanding a fight contract now. He says, so we came to Iceland. No, he says, I'm traveling around the world, going from here to Austin, Texas. Tyson, if your team is serious, and if you're serious about fighting me, have your team send me a contract. Let's get serious, and I'll find you. I'll come to you. I'll find you. No worries. Just send me the contract, and we'll get going. So anyway, obviously Tyson Fury is probably going to have the same issues that Tommy Fury had with fighting in the U.S., so that's probably out. But Iceland, I don't know, maybe they can fight in Iceland. Anyway. And he was actually, Tyson Fury actually recently supposedly visited Iceland. And Thor missed him because he was filming a movie in Italy. So anyway, yeah. He's only had one fight really with Eddie, but Thor thinks he's all that. And he wants to fight Tyson Fury. I don't know. It's one of those fights there, if you didn't know the history of either guy and you looked at both of them in the face-off, you might bet on Thor. But if you're smart, you bet on Tyson. I don't know. It does not strike me as a good idea for Thor. And it doesn't look like it's going to happen for a while if Tyson Fury makes a serious comeback here. And he has been having people in his ear for a while saying that he should fight the winner of the fight coming up next weekend. Alexander Usyk and what's his name? The British guy, Anthony Joshua, right? Anthony? I don't even know the guy's name. What's wrong with me? Joshua. Okay. The guy with two first names. That guy. Right. So this weekend, we actually have a pretty big fight on Friday night. And it's Tevin Farmer versus Mickey Bay. A little bit of an experience factor in Tevin's corner. He's had a few more fights. There's like a few more losses.
But Bay is nothing to sleep on. And Farmer, we got to see how he's coming back. He had that injury in the Jojo Diaz fight, where he lost his title, and he really did not look good. And once again, anytime you get a fighter like that, someone that uses a lot of speed, timing, skill, you lose a step, or you lose some of that timing for a long layoff. That could really hurt you.
Yeah. And that's Philadelphia boy and Tevin Farmer. So you've obviously seen some press on him out there. What do you think of his chances in this one?
Well, I covered some of his fights.
Yeah.
I was talking about Tevin the other night. I said, in a way, it was kind of funny. I'm in Vegas a couple years ago, and that's when you gave me the pass to go to that fight fan convention. And there's, fighters that there, and there's current world champs and former world champs and personalities. So it's like you're looking over and you're seeing guys, first guy I saw there was James Toney. Mm-hmm. Great character. Al Bernstein, next guy I saw, and, so I went over, I saw Roy Jones, I saw Vinny Paz. There was, other lines I just couldn't get into. The Sugar Ray Leonard line was too long. But I'm going in the line to meet the great Thomas Hearns. I mean, this guy was, one of the greatest ever. And I'm in line to meet Thomas Hearns, and standing next to me is Tevin Farmer. A world champ is there, and he's like, gaga, like a little kid, like, oh my God, I'm going to meet the great Tommy Hearns. And I'm like, this is a world champ that's like excited. And I'm like, that's kind of cool, And I turned to him, I'm like, hey man, and I said something about Philadelphia. He goes, yeah, I'm from Philly. I said, I know you are. I said, I've covered some of your fights. And then I mentioned a few mutual friends, and he's like, oh my God, you sparred with so-and-so? I'm like, yep. Oh yeah, do you know this guy? I'm like, yep. But he was there that night to call out Jojo Diaz after his fight. But that's the one thing I always thought was cool about like the boxing game. And on a similar note, I remember I felt back a good 15 years ago. I'll never forget it. It was a picture in Ring magazine, and it was Muhammad Ali, and they were talking obviously about Muhammad Ali and his health, which at the time was deteriorating, and they showed a picture of him with two world champion fighters. And when I say world champion fighters, I'm talking about pound for pound, two great world champion fighters. This photo might have been actually even longer than that. It might have been. The photo was probably in the 90s, and it might have got published later. But it was, at the time, two world champions. Julio Cesar Chavez, great fighter, and Terry Norris, great fighter. Both superstars. And Ali's taking a picture with them, and they're both standing there. And like the look on Chavez's face was like he was a giddy little kid. And it's like, and the caption was like, Muhammad Ali has the ability to take guys like that and turn them into like quivering fans.
Wow. This is crazy. Okay.
And I'm actually right now as we're doing all this, I'm looking at some of Gene LeBell's credits. And yes, he was in two, not one, but two episodes of The Incredible Hulk.
I'm looking at the schedule here, and
like I said, he was in one kickboxer. He was in Raging Bull.
There's a record in here in BoxRec for a guy named Christopher Carrazzi. 163 wins, 452 losses, and 84 draws.
Jesus Christ, that guy fought out.
That can't be real. That can't be real. Christopher Carrazzi. That's even an amateur record. But then when you click on his record, it shows him 0-0.
Back to
So, wow. Yeah.
I'm looking at more like Gene LeBell here, but it's like if you're looking at a lot of his credits from acting, he did a lot of stunts too. He was well known as a stunt man. But it's like, okay, Incredible Hulk, two episodes, referee. Okay, Raging Bull, ring announcer. Brett Maverick TV series, wrestler. Here he was the dog. He was a referee in Fantasy Island. Marciano, I guess it was a TV movie, he was a ring announcer. Americathon, referee. Kickboxer 2, referee. Taxi, the TV series, referee. Brawler, So, I guess he was typecast. We have thugs, referees, ring announcers, and wrestlers.
So the big fight on Saturday, I'm back on BoxRec here, I figured it out, but man, I still can't get the Saturday only fights to show up. It's going to take a little bit more figuring out. But they got me the main fight on ESPN Plus. Teofimo Lopez against Pedro Campa. Talk about experience. Pedro has like twice as many fights, literally, as Teofimo. Twice as many wins. And he's also got 1 loss and 1 draw. The 1 draw coming in his last 6. But Teofimo has 1 loss of his career in his last 6. And he only has 16 wins to match up with Pedro's 34. But he's ranked number 4 in the division, while Pedro is ranked number 62. So, that's all about quality of opposition or what. It's going to be on ESPN Plus on Saturday. And then we've got an undefeated fighter, Andres Cortez, 35 in the division, fighting Abraham Montoya, who has 20 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw. Abraham versus Andres. No Jesus fight right now. Sorry. Can't find one. I'm sure there is one in the world somewhere. Also, I was looking at the Tevin Farmer and Mickey Bay records, and I noticed that Rances Barthélemy is an opponent that they lost to back in 2016 after he put Barthélemy down in round number 2. That was in Hollywood, Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, which is actually Barthélemy's like home area, pretty much. So Warriors Boxing is based, which is his company, promotion company. I mean, it wasn't then. I don't know if it is now. But anyway, so that was 2016, and that was really the best opposition he has faced in the last 5 years, really. He fought Name Nelson before that in December of 2015, who was 12-0. And then George Kambosos Jr. beat him down in a split decision loss back in December of 2019. So he hasn't fought since then. And he's facing Tevin Farmer, who's got 30 wins. The last time he fought a guy with over 30 wins, or at least 30 wins, I should say, was back in 2014 when he won a close split decision against Miguel Vasquez, who was 34-3. That was for the IBF World Lightweight title. Before that, there was a unanimous decision against Jose Herrera Garcia, who was 32-5 at the time. These are both in 2014. And the last guy he TKO'd was a guy named Luis Valdivia Marin, who was 3-5-1. That was in 2018. Before that, we got to go back to 2013 when he TKO'd John Molina Jr. in the 10th round of a 10-round fight. So there you have it. I think that favors Tevin. I don't know what you think about that, Tony. Tevin's got an easy, soft opponent here, or still got a lot to worry about?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a tough opponent, but, he's definitely, as I said, see how much, Rusty has on him, but at the same time, he's a highly skilled fighter, and that last fight, he didn't look good, but I think there was, like I said, an injury concern in there. Tevin has, gracefully improved from his career. I mean, I saw him when he was basically like 6-4.
Yeah.
And then I've watched him go from a 6-4 club fighter to a world champion.
He's definitely faced the better opposition and beaten him in recent years. And then there's that one unanimous decision loss where it was 2 points on 2 of the cards separating the 2 fighters. So that's how close it was. And 4 points on the other judge's card, scorecard. And that was for a title. It was back in 2020, January. And before that, he was just dominating. Had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight wins before a no contest, or after a no contest against Kenichi Ogawa. He was 22-1. And it was no contest because Ogawa tested positive for androstenediol. Whatever the heck that is. And then there was a bunch of wins before then. So, I mean, he was on quite the streak. quite the streak. He had not lost since 2012. TKO in the 8th round. So, I'm going to guess that Kevin Farmer is going to take this one away. He only has 6 knockouts to go with his 30 wins, so it's probably, odds on going to be a unanimous decision. But guess where Kevin Farmer's last knockout was, Tony? Take a wild guess.
I'm going to say at the Valley Forge Casino in 2013.
Wasn't even in Pennsylvania. It was in Boston, dude. James Tennyson got knocked out in the 5th round back in 2018 at the TD Garden. How did I miss that one?
Oh.
Boy, in my backyard. James Tennyson, and a guy named after a poet. All right. So we got to go to MMA. We had a lot of fighting last week. We had the PFL going on, and it wasn't the best lineup to watch, but we got to watch a little bit better fight between Sugar Ray, I guess you want to call him now? No. Where is it? I'll find it. Oh, that's the one that's coming up. I gotta go to the one that just happened. Okay, so the playoffs were going on the other day, and that was last Friday. Anthony Pettis, Stevie Ray was his opponent. Second time in a row, lost the fight, but this time he didn't get twisted. He didn't get it twisted. It was a unanimous decision loss. And Stevie Ray fought a little bit differently, but Anthony really didn't change his game much. Steven just pretty much was owning him with the wrestling. And Pettis really just didn't have anything. He just was very lackluster. I mean, he threw kicks here and there that were dangerous. And he had spurts where he was just like, all right, I'm going to take a nutty and see what happens. But it just didn't seem organized. It didn't seem like he was anywhere close to where he used to be. And it was kind of weird because I was looking at his record today, and it's like, he was winning when he left the UFC, or, they didn't renew his contract, whatever happened there. He went out winning 2 fights. Like, at this point, if you can't even beat the same guy in a rematch in the PFL, like, you got to think about hanging it up. Have him set you up for one more fight.
Well, I was going to say, how long's he been around?
Yeah.
Think about that. He's been around a long time, and maybe it's time. I mean, he's still good.
Steve's a young fighter.
But I don't think he can ever get to his peak.
But 25-10 is his record. I mean, he's not like a world champion type fighter. Maybe he wins the whole thing. Maybe he surprises me. But that's got to be disappointing for Pettis, and maybe not, right away. But you got to think about it. Give him one more shot next year. If it doesn't work out, you really got to start thinking about, like, is this really good for me anymore? I'm not really doing anything positive for myself. Get my ass kicked all over the cage and these things. But yeah, kind of sad to see. You're gonna see more and more of that age of a fighter now, facing that reality. The young guys coming up are just way more talented. They have a better understanding of what it takes to win fights. In these leagues where it's all about a tournament system. You don't have to worry about putting on a show to get the bonus or anything like that. All of it's guaranteed money, and I believe they get paid to train too during the year. So I mean, it's a whole different format. So it's just interesting to see how these guys from the UFC come in there, and they get kind of lost in the weeds. But yeah, that was the main event. Omar Akhmedov in a light heavyweight fight beat Josh Silveira in the co-main event. Was not really that exciting. Olivier Aubin Mercier beating Alex Martinez in the unanimous decision at lightweight before that. Had a knockout at light heavyweight before that. Rob Wilkinson over Delon Monte. That was some punches and knees. And then Marcelo Nunez, a heavyweight, submitted Dylan Potter by arm triangle choke. For that, Alexei Pergonde over Elvis LeBron Quiles by split decision. Elvin Espinoza at lightweight beating Corey Jackson by unanimous decision. Brian Zurcher at featherweight beating Ricardo Jimenez by unanimous decision. And we had Itzo Babuladze at welterweight beating Mahmoud Sibi Fauzi by TKO. That was 4 minutes and 30 seconds of the fight. And Hamlet beating Hendricks. Martine Hamlet at light heavyweight beating Corey Hendricks by split decision in the first fight of that lineup. And we had a pretty decent UFC on ESPN card the other night. No, it's again, the one that's coming up. Okay, Santos versus Hill. And I was nowhere near the money on this one, even though every single fight ended in a finish. I somehow managed to not pick the right winners on the right lineups. I had Jamal Hill on one side. I only did.
Yeah, I kind of thought Santos' experience would carry the day, but Hill must just have power.
Well, it wasn't so much his power as his patience, I think. It was an interesting fight. I mean, because I thought Thiago was winning the early rounds pretty handily. And then Jamal just kind of weathered all the bad storms, and he had that look about him like, all right, I understand what he is capable of now. All I have to do is tire him out. And that's exactly what happened. Thiago Santos started getting jelly legs.
Yep.
He got hit with a couple good shots, and his cardio was gone. And Jamal just waded in and let the punches fly, and he was basically putting an injured animal out of its misery at that point. And Thiago was done, just absolutely physically exhausted. So obviously cardio is an issue there, and it could have also been all those wars that he's been in, those 5-round fights, catching up to him, whereas Jamal Hill has not really gone to that depth till now. And so he doesn't have that kind of, issue with flash knockouts and stuff like that. Because I believe Thiago was out on his feet at least a couple times before the knockout. But yeah, I had Thiago on one side and Jamal on the other. And the rest of them didn't work out quite well. I picked Muhammad Usman on both cards wisely. It didn't look so wise at the very beginning, but boy, that was a great one. Muhammad, the brother of Kamaru, and has not done that great, but he was on the Contender Series there. Or no, he was on the Contender Series, I believe. Ultimate Fighter. Which I didn't even realize going into this. I didn't know the whole history with the Ultimate Fighter. I thought it was just a lot of prospects here, but yeah, this whole thing with Juliana Miller and Brogan Walker. I was wondering about those, discrepancy between the fights, but it makes sense now that I know there was an Ultimate Fighter situation. So Muhammad Usman going against Zach Pauga, and Pauga, boy, tough guy and scrappy, and Usman just could not seem to do anything right. He had the reach advantage, he had the physique advantage. Pauga's coming in there with a little chubby coming off his belly, looking not really willing to chase Muhammad around the ring, but he was doing that, and he was landing, and then Usman just comes out of nowhere with a windmill punch, and boom, Pauga's on the ground. Just fell over like a tree.
Yeah. Where did that come from? Where did that? It didn't look like a hard punch.
No.
But
no.
It was.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of George Foreman when he won the title there against Michael Moore. It wasn't at the final seconds of the fight, that's all. But man, he was losing, not looking good, getting frustrated, and then just stepped into one. Home run. And then Jeff Neal surprised me. I did have also opposite cards. One guy on one card, one guy on the other. Vicente Luque is a tough guy, but Jeff Neal kind of did the same thing Jamal did. He just waited till Vicente got a little bit tired and had a couple good shots to the temple, and was a little bit busted up, and then he just waded in and finished it. Kind of like a little bit of a rope-a-dope, and inside the cage. But Jeff Neal just looked very professional, very patient, and got the job done. Those were the latest knockouts. Well, there's one other one in the third round with 3 seconds left to go. But that was the other Ultimate Fighter contest. Juliana Miller, she come in at only 2-1 professionally at flyweight. So of course I got to pick Brogan Walker with a name like Brogan. I mean, bro. How can you go wrong? And she lost. She got schooled by this Juliana Miller character. I mean, fantastic wrestler. She used every pound of her weight to throw Brogan around, and Brogan really just did nothing right the whole fight, really, from what I could see. I mean, she had maybe like 6 seconds of good moves. But yeah, it ended in the third from punches and elbows. Juliana actually finished it right at the end. It looked like she was just going to cruise to decision, but she finished it. So that didn't help my lineups. Sergey Spivak, I was smart enough to only put him and not his opponent in any lineups. So he got the nice TKO win in the second round. That was not a surprise. Terrence McKinney, he was the top priced fighter. I had him, of course, I had to pick him on one of my lineups and he beat Eric Gonzalez in the first round, 2 minutes and 17 seconds in. First round wins are big on the FanDuel, but not big enough for me. Rear naked choke there. And then, of course, what would have killed me is if I was sentimental and picked Sam Alvey in my lineups. I did not. I realized Olashuk was going to have a real good shot of winning that early, and he did. TKO, 1 minute 56 into round 1, and I was looking for Alvey to take his gloves off.
Yeah, that was nasty. Oh, ugly.
I was looking for him to take his gloves off and put him on the floor, but he didn't. He did that. He had this fight in front of his entire family, too. They highlighted that beforehand. His entire family was there, so I was like, whoa, wonder if he's going to put his gloves on if he loses. And nope. Got TKO in front of his whole family. Very embarrassing. Did not do a thing. And then here's my big mistake, okay? We joked about this last week. This guy's name is Brian Battle. Great name for a fighter. So I said to myself while I'm picking my lineups, I got to have Brian Battle in there. Great name. He's probably going to do something crazy. So I put him in there, and then there was a cancellation, one of the female fights. So I had to change my fighter, and I did the math, and I worked some shit around, and I ended up taking Brian Battle out and replacing him, I believe, with Stephanie Egger. And yeah, that was a bad move. Because Stephanie Egger was in the first fight of the night, and she lost by armbar submission just 1 minute and 17 seconds in. And what did Brian Battle do at welterweight? But he head kicked Takashi Sato in 44 seconds, which was the fastest knockout of the night. Came in the third fight of the night, so I would have known I was up on good points at that point if I had picked him, but no. I had Sato on the other lineup, though. That really killed me. And then the other female fight, I did not pick right. Did not have either girl. But Corey McKenna beating Miranda Granger by a shoulder choke submission, 1 minute and 3 seconds into the second round at strawweight. So yeah, all the first round finishes came early on the card in the first 5 fights. Okay, only one fight in the first 5 went to the second. And that was a strawweight one I just mentioned. So you had to have everything early. Sometimes I got to realize that, it's not always going to be the main event fighter, even though it's a 5-rounder that's going to factor in. Sometimes you get an all knockout card. It's very tough to predict this shit. But I knew the main players. I knew who was going to win as far as Usman and McKinney and Olashuk. I knew those top 3. I could have built a little bit better with the other 2. Win some, we lose some. Okay. So we got PFL this week coming up. We've got UFC on ESPN 41, and we got Bellator 284. And that's we got a Gracie in the main event Bellator fight. 11-3 Neiman Gracie at welterweight, fighting Goiti Yamauchi, who is 27-5. This is tomorrow night. And co-main event, Valentin Moldavsky, 11-2, fighting Steve Mowry, who is 10-0. And we got a fantastic female fight, Bruna Ellen, 6-3 at flyweight, fighting Alima Lee McFarlane, who's 11-2. And a heavyweight fight here, Saeed Sauma, 8-3, fighting Gokhan Sarakam, who is 7-1. Oh, interesting. And middleweights, Austin Vanderford, 11-1, and Aaron Jeffrey, who's 12-3. Seventh fight of the night, Josh Hill, 21-4 at bantamweight, fighting Marcos Breno, who's 14-2. And Deanna Bennett, 12-7-1 at flyweight, fighting Justine Kish, who's 8-5. And a bunch of preliminaries. There's only one guy here with more than 3 fights. That's Tony Ortega, 5-4 at bantamweight, fighting Mitchell McKee, who's 2-0. Go through the list. They won't be televised, that's for sure. Heavyweight. Oh, that's different. All right. So, Professional Fighters League. We got Rory McDonald in the main event of that one. Also tomorrow from Cardiff, Wales, believe it or not. I don't know what the delay is going to be like. How they're going to do that television situation. But Rory McDonald coming in at 23-9-1, fighting Delano Taylor, who is 9-2. Don't know anything about that dude. Heavyweights in the co-main event, Ante Delija, who is 21-5, fighting Renan Ferreira, who is 9-3. And then we got Mateus Scheffel, 16-8 against Juan Adams, who's 10-4, also heavyweights. So let's bring some action there. Sadabu Sai, 11-5-2 at welterweight, will be facing Carlos Leo Miranda, who is 17-3. That's a pretty good record. Nathan Kelly at featherweight, 5-2, fighting Ben Ellis, who's 4-1. We got Will Flory, who's 10-3 at light heavyweight, fighting Anthony Salomone, who is 7-0. And he's not barbaric, but he's barbaric. Vodsto Barboric, 13-2 at lightweight, fighting Radu Maxim, who's 9-2. Mokhtar Benkasi, 20-7 at bantamweight, fighting Francesco Nuzzi, who is 9-1. And then Premislav Maisiala, 24-11-1 at light heavyweight, fighting Lee Chadwick, who is 27-16-1. Boy, that's some records for those guys. And lightweights, Josh Connor, 1-0, fighting Emran Sakazada, who is 2-1. And Mick Stanton coming in at 9-6 at light heavyweight, fighting Marcin Wojcik, who is 15-8. Welterweight fight in the second fight of the night, Chris Nixon, 3-1, fighting Christian Stigenberg, who is 3-1. First fight of the night, quite the records here. Hadif Moel, who is 12-4 at heavyweight, fighting Simone Bajor, who is 23-9 at heavyweight. That's a lot of fights. Imagine if Ante Delija, with his 21 wins and 5 losses, goes up against this Bajor guy, 23-9. A lot of experience. This Maisala versus Chadwick fight. Boy, 27 wins versus 24 wins. The fifth fight. Oh, that'll be televised. So, now we're down to UFC on ESPN 41. That's showing that's happening Saturday. Okay. Marlon Vera versus Dominic Cruz in the main event. Cruz has been a little bit critical of the UFC recently. I noticed. I meant to talk about this last week, but there was an article where he's had a little bit of criticism, which may be why we haven't seen him in the broadcast booth recently. They renewed his contract, but Marlon Vera coming in at 19-7-1, Dominic at 24-3 at bantamweight. And you never know which Dominic is going to show up. But he always...
Yeah, this is a real crossroads. It's going to be a fascinating fight. Now, what are the odds on this, Rick? Did you check?
I do not know. I should know. Anyway, Cruz has been winning. His last couple fights, Casey Kenny, he beat by split decision last year in March, and then last December he beat Pedro Munoz by unanimous decision. And Henry Cejudo and Cody Garbrandt beat him before that. But yeah, he's got quite the resume. Marlon Vera is got a tough date in this one, but 7 losses against 3. So just not a very high percentage of knockouts for Cruz, whereas Vera actually has 37 plus 42. 79% knockout, or stoppage rate, I should say, for Marlon Chito Vera. And the last guy he knocked out just happens to be a guy named Frankie Edgar back in November of last year. And he's also had a fight this year, whereas Cruz is coming off a little bit more of a layoff. And like Cruz, you know, he's lost to really just pretty much only tough guys, like really tough guys in recent years. You know, maybe it's debatable. Yadong Song was not really that great of a name, but that was a unanimous decision loss he had in 2020. But other than that, it's just been Jose Aldo, dating back all the way back to 2018 when he lost to Douglas Silva de Andrade and John Lineker, back-to-back unanimous decisions. He's been in the UFC quite a while, dating back to 2014.
Oh, Vera is minus 250, and Cruz is dog at plus 210.
Oh,
wow! So for Cruz, this is really he better win. Wow. So. Interesting.
Nobody's giving him credit there. And Vera has never been stopped either. Not that, you know, Dominic Cruz is probably looking for that. You know, he's out of 24 wins, he's got 8 stoppages. 7 of them knockouts, only 1 submission. So probably not going to look for a submission there, but you know, 16 decisions. That's 67% decision rate. So if you're going to bet on the Dominator, go by decision. Probably not going to happen. At least decision or knockout, not 4% of his wins. And he's also split the difference with his 3 losses: 1 knockout, 1 submission, and 1 decision. So who knows there? I don't know. I gotta go gut-wise and say Cruz is gonna outsmart him. But I gotta give Vera the puncher's chance and say that, you know, if it ends, it's probably gonna be a finish, knockout. Gonna catch him with a crazy punch he's not gonna see coming. Dominic does have a very unorthodox hands-down style. He likes to do the up jab. He likes to do a lot of head movement. Sometimes that can really come back to bite you with a guy that has a little bit more reach and can kind of throw his weight around a little bit more than some of the opponents Cruz is used to. So we shall see, but Vera cannot be counted out. I mean, that's a hell of a matchup. The UFC matchmakers know what they're doing. So that's a great main event. It's going to be actually from San Diego, California this time. It's not going to be in Vegas. And the co-main event is Nate Landwehr and David Onama at featherweight. I don't really know too much about either guy. Landwehr, I know, has a lot of experience. I think Onama is a little bit newer to the UFC. But we'll go into our numbers later. Let's figure that one out when I do my lineups. Because as we learn next week, every fight could be a knockout or a stoppage. You never know. Even the featherweights, strawweights, and a female fight going on in the 11th fight of the night. 8-0 Yasmin Zouregui. She's 8-0 strawweight, fighting Yasmin Lucindo, who's 13-4. Then we got undefeated fighter Azamat Mirzakhanov. He's 11-0 at light heavyweight, fighting Devin Clark, who's 13-6. We got Priscilla Cachoeira. She's 11-4 at bantamweight, fighting Ariane Lipsky, who is 14-7 bantamweight. Bruno Silva, 22-7 at middleweight, fighting Gerald Meerschaert, who is 34-15. That one. Talk about experience. 56 wins between the two of those guys, and 22 losses. 77 fights is crazy. Before that, Angela Hill, 13-12. She's either going to go 500 or she's going to go 40-12. That's a heck of a record for a lady that's been in the ranks for a long time. She's fighting Lupita Godinez, who is no cheap date, at a record of 8-2, and it's going to be a 120-pound catchweight fight. And Martin Boudet, he is 10-1 at heavyweight, fighting Lucas Brzeski, 8-1-1. So, a young up-and-coming heavyweights there, trying to make a mark on the undercard. That's the sixth fight of the night. And we got Cynthia Calvillo. She is 9-4-1 at flyweight, fighting Nina Nunes, who is 10-7. And some more experience here. Gabriel Benitez, doubling the amount of wins his opponent has. He's got 22 wins to go with 10 losses at lightweight, fighting Charlie Ontiveros, who only has 11 wins to go with 8 losses. So I'll take that. Benitez must be the favorite there. And then Odie Osborne, 11-4, fighting Tyson Nam. He's 20-12 with one draw at flyweight. Odie. Isn't there a famous dog named Odie? Garfield or something like that?
Famous dog named Cody?
Odie.
Odie. Yeah, Odie. It was Garfield and Odie from the comics.
I was wondering about that earlier. Odie Osborne. I did bet. I put him in a lineup before Odie and he failed me, but I don't know, this one might be different. This guy's got 12 losses. Even though his name is Tyson, his last name is Nam. But I gotta like Odie in this one. I haven't redeemed my earlier loss. We'll find out. Second fight of the night, Jason Witt at 180 pounds, catchweight fight. He is 19-8, fighting Josh Quinlan, who is undefeated at 5-0. And then first fight is a bantamweight battle between Yusuf Zalal, 10-5, and Damon Blackshear, who's 12-4. That's about it. What else we got? I feel like I'm forgetting something big. Did we talk about last week's fights in boxing at all?
Oh, we didn't talk about any the boxing results.
Yeah. What happened last week, Tony?
Well, we had a pretty good card on DAZN. You know, it was funny. It was like, I'm sitting there, I was at a festival last weekend, which I always makes me think of Arturo Gatti, because the one festival I used to go to, it was in July, and that was the first time I ever went there. Was we raced back to see Gotti's last fight, which he lost. Then 2 years later, I was on my way there when I got the text message that Gotti had been killed. But this one is a smaller one they have in Norristown. We're close to where a bunch of my friends live. So we go. I went 2 nights, and I met pro fighters each night. One of them, Tom, has seen. So the first night I went, there was a local club fighter, Joey Malvez, and I've known Joey for years. I covered some of his fights, and the one time he was fighting a guy that I knew. The guy asked for a full scouting report. I gave him the scouting report. It was on. The guy didn't listen, and Joey knocked him out. The second fighter I saw that Tom knew, or this one Tom knows, was Harry Yorkie, who main evented the card that Tom came and joined me with that time in King of Prussia.
Yeah. Remember
So I was hanging with him on Saturday night. So I said, listen, we got to get home because we got some fights on the zone. I said, so I got it. And let me pull up the record from last week's card because the main event was pretty impressive. I want to go over everything with you. Let's see.
By the way, Tony, is Harry officially retired?
Yeah. I mean, he never said anything like, but he's training guys now, and from talking to him, it doesn't look like he had where he was going to be, stepping in anytime soon.
Yeah.
I am definitely, like Rich was saying earlier, not liking this new
box rec.
box rec.
Yeah. I'm trying to find those results myself.
A couple fights last week that I want to go over.
See Tony Luis on Facebook is talking about doing a press conference this Friday in front of some arena, possibly to talk about his retirement. He has hinted, but not really said anything about it. But he had a TKO loss in that big fight he had scheduled with Steve Claggett, went all the way to the 7th round out of 10. And so that's a tough one for Tony, former guest of ours. And while I'm on the subject of former guests, Tony's looking for those results. 2 of our former guests, actually 3 of our former guests were together in one place recently. Thanks to John Scully. He put together Christy Martin and Shalito Vincent. We had on the show. We gotta have her on again.
Yes, I saw that.
To talk about that, because 2 great guests of ours who went into their trauma and tough stories and backgrounds, and a couple of emotional interviews for us too. Christy Martin. I mean, I kind of came out of nowhere with some of the questions and really pushed her to talk about all that stuff.
Yeah, really.
She was ready for it, like she was on the stand. And boy, them 2 meeting was a dream for Shalito. So great stuff. And then she said something about. She said that, the only thing that would make my dream more complete is if I could meet Mike Tyson on the same day, because that's the next bucket list person to meet. And so I had to comment. John Scully's got all the numbers. He made it a quote from Mike Tyson, because that's what he said in the video. Somebody caught him saying that. John Scully's got all the numbers. So you got to talk to Scully. And
so
Scully
going
just
back
came off a 30-day ban too. So good on him for doing that.
Yeah, I saw that. And basically he said, and now it's like when you say things on Facebook now, like if you get in trouble for something, and you have to, like, someone says, hey man, why were you on Facebook?
This time.
You have to learn how to say something in basically code word, because they flag certain words. Yeah. So Rich, if I go on there, I say, man, Rich, say that if you don't call me tonight at 9 o'clock in the morning, totally, just joking. It's a figure of speech, right? They take it as a hostile threat.
Yep.
So I guess Scully had said something about people that were burning down like food processing plants should be devoid of H2O. So I guess he says they should be,
I think it was air. Air.
H2O. I thought he said H2O. Maybe he meant air. Maybe he meant oxygen.
Yeah.
But I thought he said H2O. But he said, okay, maybe they should be deprived of oxygen, where they shouldn't, well, when you say, like, these people should be whatever, well, it's like they should be choked. That's a threat. You can't say that. So it's like, okay, deprived of oxygen. The one time I was saying, like, hey, why did so-and-so get in trouble? I said, well, this person made a information that they'd like to strike another human being in their rectum with their foot in a, in a sweeping motion, basically kick your ass. Mm-hmm. That's how I got around, that phrase. But on the card, we had Blair Cobb out of Philadelphia. He won a unanimous decision over Maurice Hooker, and going in that fight, you could tell Hook mentally was not in it. I know he was I believe they said a death of a friend or something recently, where you could tell he looked like, especially in those early rounds, that he was looking he wasn't looking at his opponent. He was almost staring in space, and he got knocked down 3 or 4 times. And
Once
Cobb
in round
popped
one
on the
and
decision.
twice in round two, according to Box Strike. Oh, Hank Lundy was on this card?
And then,
I didn't even know that.
yeah, he was. Well, part of it was non-televised, and Hank lost a decision. I think it was a 10-rounder. And from what I heard, it wasn't a great fight. I saw the clip of the first round where Hank scored a knockdown, and then from what I heard, once again from not seeing the fight, he lost pretty much the remaining 9 rounds. So they said this fight was the pre-fight trash talk and stare down was more entertaining than the actual fight, aside from the first round fireworks. Main event was Virgil Ortiz Jr., and I know Virgil had that episode a few months ago where he had some medical issues. I think he was hospitalized. He had a fight that had to be canceled because of his medical issues. So it was interesting to see how he was going to do in his first fight back. Virgil has, the perfect record, undefeated, and he really impressed us a couple years ago in Vegas when he blew Mauricio Herrera basically out of the ring. Virgil 19-0, 19 knockouts. And I'm seeing a weird alert on him. Like I said, I'm trying to learn this new box rec right now. So he's fighting Michael McKinson, who was 22-0. And he finally caught up to him in the 8th round, and he stopped him in the 9th. Now, if you're on BoxRec and you click on Virgil Ortiz, suspended by Texas Combative Sports Program.
Oh, yeah.
Did you hear anything about this?
No, that's just typical.
What the hell?
It's just a typical thing. I noticed that on here before.
Typical? What am I missing something here? I've never seen it.
Because he just fought. So it's probably just a precautionary thing that they do. They suspend him for the next 2 weeks.
Oh, I got you. So it means okay, you just fought, because it was maybe 8 rounds or whatever. You're not going to be sanctioned to fight tomorrow.
Right.
Okay. When I saw suspended by
yeah, I see that too.
Combative Sports, I'm like, well, what the hell? Usually you see that when there's a positive drug test, or if somebody has an injury, or a fight injury, where they got to get clearance to fight again. I wasn't,
All right. Without looking at the record, Tony, tell me how many Jesuses have been knocked out by Virgil Ortiz?
Oh my God! Now I gotta look.
2.
There's 1.
2.
That was in
2 Jesuses.
2019. There's 2. Both with 3 names.
Oh, there's 3. There's actually 3.
So okay, it looks like he has 2 on there with 3 names.
Oh, I mistook 1. Yeah, just 2. It doubled on me when I did.
There's 2. January 26th and 19, 5 rounds over Valdez Barracan, and February 22nd of 18 over Alvarez Rodriguez.
So there you have it. We're going to end on a Jesus note. No. Also, I wanted to mention there was a guy in the undercard on here, Dedrick Bell, at super lightweight. His record is 31-32 with 1 draw. Lost by knockout to Rohan. Rohan Polanco. And then there was a unanimous decision win for Marlon Esparza over Eva Guzman. Both of them had one loss going in. Eva was looking for win number 20. Marlon was looking for lucky number 13. And she got it. WBA World Flyweight and WBC World Flyweight titles. And Virgil Ortiz was fighting the WBO International Welterweight titles on the line. There it is. Virgil keeps up his streak. 19 knockouts in a row. Hey, I had no idea that was the case going in. I don't know how I missed that.
You know, and sometimes when you get a lot of fighters that have, like, all knockouts here, you can question their level of opposition. And then you can see what happens when they get tested. Ortiz has fought a good level of opposition. Is he ready for somebody on the caliber of like a Bud Crawford, or an Errol Spence, or even a Boots Ennis? I don't know. Someone was talking the other day, one of my Philadelphia boxing, colleagues, and they said, man, it'd be a great fight would be Ortiz and Boots. That might even be better than Spence and Crawford, And, the problem with that is, we're not in an era now like we were back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and even into the 80s. Now we're in like a pay-per-view and mega fight era. So, then it's like, you'd have contenders that would fight each other. Hey, but there was, at the same time, there was one champion. So if you wanted to get that shot at that champion, you had to beat other contenders to get there. Now it's like, well, I can pick and choose what champion I'm going to fight, and that way I can get a belt, and that way I can get a mega fight against another champion. But unfortunately, it deprives fans of great fights. Yeah. Then you have guys fighting now that are fighting 20 times in a career. Back, the day you had, guys would fight 20 times in a career, they'd fight 20 times in a year. So, with Bruce Ennis and Virgil Ortiz, I don't think it's a fight you can make right now because, the risk-reward is it wouldn't be a big money-making fight to the casual fans, and, why would you sign that fight? 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, absolutely, they'd probably fight 3 times in a year. Be a great trilogy. Now it's going to be like, well, let them both get titles and make it a mega fight. And hopefully you can turn it into like a Leonard Hearns or a De La Hoya Trinidad or, a big money-making showdown like that. Like a Spence Crawford, like a Mayweather Pacquiao, hopefully just not too late. Which is what I'm worried about Spence and Crawford. It's going to be too late by the time they finally get in there.
Yeah, that could be true.
Yeah.
Sad. Sad.
And the thing is, now you have guys that move up in weight, and who knows how long guys like Ortiz and any of the 4, Crawford. I think Crawford is the least likely to move up because maybe he's the oldest, and I think maybe he's and he has already moved up, where these other guys are starting at welter, and they're going to continue to grow because they're younger guys. But this, round robin we're talking about now, these fighters like Ortiz, Spence, Crawford, Boots, these guys might end up meeting at junior middle, or maybe not as much Crawford, but these guys could end up meeting at middle down the line, because by the time it happens, they could all have moved up, so much.
Well then.
But, knowing us right now, we're all pretty knowledgeable fans. And we're all guys saying, hey, man, you hear this fight coming up? Hey, Virgil Ortiz is fighting. I got to be home in time to watch Virgil Ortiz fight. How many casual people say that? Maybe when it was on HBO, not DAZN, you might have a guy say, hey, man, it's Ortiz Ortiz kid's fighting on HBO tonight. I'm gonna watch it. But I don't think you see as much of that on the apps. You get more like your hardcore fans, your guys like us. So if I say to you right now, Ortiz and Boots have signed, and it's going to be for the big IBF welterweight title, for argument's sake. You guys are going to salivate. I might call my friends up and go, guys, Boots and Ortiz are going to fight. They're going to say, who? I said, guys, just come over to my house. I'll have the beer and I'll have the pizza. Hey, beer and pizza. I can't wait. They don't care about Boots and Ortiz. They care about beer and pizza. I'll get friends of mine to come over for like a Tyson Fury fight, and they'll be like, what time's the main event start? The last one was an afternoon card. I said, main event starts at 5 o'clock. They showed up at 4:45. They didn't give a shit about the undercard. And that's the problem with a lot of your casuals now. And I think a lot of that stems where you don't get as much mainstream exposure. You don't get these afternoon cards on CBS or ABC anymore. You don't get Tuesday night fights anymore. Where you got to get your casual people to say, you know what, hey, there's boxing on. Let me watch it, and let me get a vested interest in the fighters. I don't know. Maybe I'm too old school.
Yeah, I gotta start watching more boxing myself. Alright, I guess that's all for us until next week. And we're gonna actually have a pre-recorded interview with James Hergott again. He wants to do it again. I did remaster the other interview. Just published it on Spreaker, and I republished it on Blog Talk Radio, but it really was still not the best. There's like a fan in the background that I have changed the microphone position to deal with since then, and I think James was trying to get us to go through his car phone, and I didn't realize he had sent a message through Twitter with a different number the last time, and we had already had him on the phone, so I kind of was like, alright, let's just do it this way. And yeah, it's this very low voice on even the improved recording, so hopefully we improve that. The second time it's going to be a solo interview because his birthday is next Thursday, so I got to do it the day before. But we'll try to touch on. I'm going to listen to the interview again before I do it, and I'm going to try to bring in some of you guys' points too. So we'll be there in spirit. And so we're going to redo that one, make it nice and professional. And he's got a pretty good marketplace to promote it, and I think he really wants to promote it, but he just wants it to be better audio. So not a problem for me. Like we've done it before a couple times. We've had to do it because actually entire interviews have been lost before. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen often, but we had the fucking Ken Shamrock situation. I still never figured out how to fix that one, but we didn't have my audio in the whole entire interview. Just Ken answering questions. That's bad. Not good. So this one was a little bit better than that, but still, we can do better. So we're going to do better next week for him, and then we're going to try and line up some September interviews, some late August interviews. We'll figure it out. And
okay.
We'll go from there. So until then, thanks for stopping by.
Well, sounds good. All right. Well, have a good weekend, gentlemen.
Enjoy the fights.
Later.
Adios.